Boom. We are good. What is going on? Welcome to session 3 of Project Alpha. I'm really excited. I'm happy to have you here. Happy to have you all who are watching this replay. Wish you would have been here live, but you all who are here live, glad to have you all here. I hope you guys can feel my energy as well, like a little bit. I know like I say, it's late for some of y'all, early for some people, middle of the day. But I appreciate you guys all for showing up. I think in programs like this, or when people are really investing in themselves, but more importantly, their time. I look at when people give money to be in a program, or money to have me coach them, or money, whatever it is, like people are going to get that back. But when they give their time, people don't get that back. That's something that's important. And all of you guys are very consciously aware of that. So I want to say thank you for your time being here. Hope you guys are getting something out of it. I want to bring up something real quick though before we start that I hope you guys are taking into consideration, and that is the celebration. Like, have you forgot about that? People always forget about this part. It's one of the most important parts, celebration. It's celebrating yourself, celebrating little things that happen to you during the day. As we've been doing this, as I said, a lot of you guys are going to have a lot of realizations and be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. And you're going to look at things a little bit different, but you got to make sure that you're stopping to celebrate. You're stopping to celebrate because that's what's going to link this. It's going to really implement it in your mind, celebrate these things like, oh my gosh, that used to bother me and it doesn't. Yes. Like just something like that really matters. Like it matters because it gives a warmth to your nervous system, like a treat to a dog, like great job. And I'm not saying you guys are dogs, but I'm just saying like, it's like giving that treat. Because I mean, I was going to say it later on in today, but I'll say it right now, and I'll try to keep today a little bit shorter. But everything we do is out of pleasure and pain. Everything comes down to these two things: pleasure and pain. And what's important about those two things is understanding that you will do more. I just had this conversation over dinner tonight, because you'll do more to avoid pain than you will to run to pleasure. That's how powerful this is. So when you really start to understand it, you're like, okay, pleasure and pain, pleasure and pain. So if you just relate doing something like, I don't know, like one thing we've been working on, I've changed the rule that I had, or I changed the definition. Now freedom for me is anytime I can go outside. That's a definition for me. And now you go outside and you feel good. Now your mind starts to link pleasure to that. That's the only difference. That's it. When I'm working with people with NLP, these courses, these programs that I'm a part of, everything is trying to get people to link good things to pleasure and bad things to pain, because that will separate itself. The reason why people don't go to the gym and work out is because there's not enough pleasure there for them. They think of pain. They look at pain. They don't want to feel that way. People want to feel good. They want to feel great, actually. So when you can really make that shift, that's when the change starts to happen. So this is why the celebration is so important, because it links like you did a good job and it gives you a hit. You know, one of the things that I do personally, I've said this in the first session, is I have a celebration song for all of you. Every single one. Every time you guys signed up, my celebration song came on. If I couldn't play the song on my phone, I played it in my mind for just like 10 seconds. Like that's what I do. And I links pleasure. Not just like, oh, someone else signed up. Oh, someone wants to have another meeting. Oh, I have a new client. Okay. There's no pleasure there. You really want to link it, and that's the important thing. And the next thing is that everything we're doing right now, if you think about your mind, everything that we're doing, you're going to have to consciously do it. This is why it's important. This is the hardest part. And in any course, any program I run, like it's statistically shown that 98%, I think it's 99, but we'll be generous to say 98. 98% won't, 98% of the people there won't do anything. I guess just the fact. People will learn it, they'll be like, okay, whatever. And then it goes out of their mind because it's not in your subconscious yet. So if you guys don't know about this, and I can do it just really briefly, your subconscious mind is what runs everything. This is what we're tapping into right now. We're making this stuff aware. We're shining the flashlight, this little light that's going to blind me for the next little bit of time. We're shining this into your subconscious mind so that you all can become aware of this stuff. But you're going to have to consciously do it until it's just linked into your mind. And I'm going to give you an example. This will hopefully clear things up. You're driving a car. Like when you first start driving a car, like you're really focused on a lot. If you live in Europe, I remember living in Germany, and that was the first place I lived in Europe. And when I got to Frankfurt, Germany, they gave me my car, and they gave me a stick shift car. and I've never driven a stick shift. No idea. And I stalled out so many times. And people were honking at me on the road, like, and I was so nervous about getting out of first gear. That's all I could focus on. I didn't even focus on anything else except I don't want to stall out. Like, let's get this right. So first gear, second gear, okay, cool. And that's all I focused on because it wasn't in my subconscious mind yet. I had to consciously realize, lift my foot off the clutch a little bit, shift over, and try not to stall out. That's was in my conscious mind. But then after I got it, it went into my subconscious mind, so I didn't even think about it. And before I know it, I'm writing down, I'm having my coffee, shifting with one hand and driving with my elbow. Like this is when you integrated it into your subconscious. And you know it because if you're doing something, like maybe you're trying to you're taking a route to work, and this day you don't have to work, you're actually going to the place after your job, but you just naturally just turn into your job, or you get off the metro right at your job. It's because you're an autopilot. Your subconscious mind was taking over. You weren't even paying attention. And it's how we work. But to get it into your subconscious, you have to consciously do it until it finally clicks, like brushing your teeth. You don't think about it anymore. And actually, when you've consciously done that to your brain, to not brush your teeth, you feel horrible going to sleep, not brushing your teeth. It would correlate to pain. So this is what everything is about. It's about getting you to understand that it's about linking all the stuff that we're doing, linking it pleasure versus pain, because everything comes down to that. Pleasure and pain. Pleasure, pain. Pleasure, pain. So this is what we're trying to shift your focus to. But understand here in the beginning, you're going to have to consciously do it. In the beginning, it requires you to consciously do it. And then after that, that's when the subconscious takes over. You don't have to think about it. Okay? Does that make sense? Clap your hands, say boom. Boom. Yeah, you guys forgot already. Yeah, we got to get some like movement, you know? People watching just like, you know what I mean? Like I can't have the most energy. It's been a long day for me here, you know? So last week we talked about definitions, how we define words, how we define freedom, how we define success. Everyone defines it differently. And today we're going to integrate that into rules because rules are super important. Like rules is how we know to feel a certain way. Rules is how we know what to do. Like, because we have these rules that we follow. But our rules can either they run us or they can ruin us by our rules. And we just believe them. We believe these rules. And why I talked about the conscious and unconscious first is because our rules are subconscious. The rules we have in our mind are subconscious because we've said them so many times to ourselves. Whatever that rule is, I have a list over here. I kind of made a list. Well, I'll get into it later because I want to hear what you guys say first about it. We're going to do a little exercise in a minute. But on here, I have like, we have to change these rules you have in your mind, whatever those rules are. Like, you know, I suck at math. This is like the classic one I love to give. But saying you suck at math, that's a rule that's just in your mind. So because of that, you're going to steer away from things with involving numbers. You're going to get irritated any time someone asks you to add. If you make a mistake, you won't do it. This is a subconscious thing. And these rules, they run your life. They run everything you're doing are these subconscious rules. I have them. I've unearthed a lot of the subconscious rules that I have, but I still have some that still come into my mind. They still creep into my mind, even now, like all the time. And I really have to consciously think about it to shift it. And I feel like this is the hardest part. The hardest part is understanding it's not just going to happen. Like I can give you the tools, but you have to consciously do it until you don't even think about it anymore. All the time. Like this happens and people feel like, well, since Luke knows this, he doesn't have to do that. I have to do it super hard. And it's even harder for me because I know it. I know it. I'm like, Luke, this is what you teach, and you're dealing with this right now. Like, come on, take your own advice. And I'm a firm believer that if everyone took their own advice, we'd all be okay. But that's another conversation. But these rules, you have to consciously do it. Consciously. And if you don't, what happens is you end up building this prison. The way we live our life, what we do, it's run by these rules that we've set up. Whether I'm not good at math, but we don't just stop there. We say other things like, I don't know. We're gonna get into this next, but we're gonna talk about the rules of these like, I don't know. I have to be working all the time. Like, okay, cool. So you're not good at math. You have to be working all the time. What else? And we build all these rules, like, and we put all these rules up, and these become the box that we get stuck in. These rules, like, I can't make money online. Like, I can't just travel. Like, I'm not good at just like meeting new people. Like, and all these are rules. And you can go, everyone can go down this list and because I have a list here, but if I say it, I'm going to start to influence you. I don't want to do that yet. I want you guys to think freely right now of these rules that you have in your own life that are running your life, running everything you do. I'm not good with meeting people. I just don't get along with people who are like that. Or I just hate when people do that. Like all those are rules, every single one. So you can imagine. I named 4 or 5. All of us have hundreds of rules for hundreds of different situations. And that's what creates the box. That's what creates the box that we live in. It's all these rules that we have. And one thing we're going to get into next week, and why it's only 2 days next week, because it's going to be pretty, I say intense, but it's going to be fun. But we're going to talk about the rules we have on feeling certain ways. Next week is all about feeling. We're going to get you guys so you guys feel happy. Like if you think about your rules to feel happy, some of us make it so hard to feel happy. Like for us to feel happy, like the sun has to be out 24 hours a day. It has to be a steady temperature of a certain degree. The beach has to be right there by our side. We need people to text us all the time. Like this is our rules to be happy if we really think about it. We don't because it's in our subconscious, but we make it so hard to feel really happy and feel really fulfilled. But to feel sad or to feel bad is pretty easy. Someone just has to cut me off in line. Someone has to not call me back. Someone has to not text me back, even though I don't ever text people back, but they have to text me back right away. I have to feel like I'm a priority all the time. Like if not, then instantly. And you realize that what happens with these rules, we're talking about it right now as far as rules for our life. And next week, we're going to get deep into it for our feelings. But we make it so hard for certain things, like super, super hard. And the thing about these rules is these are all these little rules. Like I'm not good at math. Like I've never been great at that. My skin's never been perfect. Like I just can't get into shape. I can't even lose weight. Like all these little things are building yourself. And all these rules you have, this is what makes up your identity. And our identity is the biggest thing. People will defend their identity until they die. They will say they suck at math until they effing die. Because that's your identity. But they don't know that. People aren't aware of that. You know, this is one of the biggest discussions that I have. Like in one-on-one with my clients, this is like number one. But we don't get into it early. We really go a couple weeks. Like I have one of my smallest coaching program has this 9 weeks. And this is like week 6. After we've really broke down everything that they're going through, then they get to see all this stuff that everything's led to this identity that they've created. They created this identity for themselves. And then they just defend it no matter what. Anyone who says something, they don't believe it. I can tell you something, I can tell all of you guys right now and save all of your money and we're done with this course and just be like, hey, you're just defending an identity you don't have to defend. Long story short. But if I were to say that, you don't understand the process, but because the rules are part of it. There's a lot of things that take it. So all of these rules lead to your identity. And, you know, when you think about how powerful your identity is and someone attacks it, you almost can find I don't know what the word is. It's like you can almost be angry that someone attacks your identity because we attach ourselves to it. And and I love to give symptoms. I'm a fan of symptoms because someone did that to me one time. I'm like, oh my gosh, I do say that to myself. One of the symptoms of an identity is if someone says something to you and you feel triggered by it. You know, like you'd be like, whoa, 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 whoa. So like if I were to go in here and let's say I were to, hold on 1 second. Pull you guys up on my screen real quick. So if I were to look at Sherry and I were to say, hey, Sherry, oh my gosh, like you're like this 6'9" guy with green hair and blue eyes, and it's just really annoying to me. And, you know, it's just like horrible. Like, it's just annoying. Like, you're just so annoying to me. Like, you would be like, what's wrong with this guy? Like, everyone would look like, what's wrong? Because you don't identify with anything I just said. Now, if you were to attack someone's identity and bring out something, whoa, almost lost my computer. And you were to bring out something, doesn't matter what it is, but if it's something that you struggle with, then this is where things come up. So this is where people's identities are being attacked. You can see it in society all the time. If someone says something that doesn't bother you, you don't really care. But the second that is something that you feel like that's part of who I am, and one of the biggest things is like religion. Religion is a huge one. Like the second that you attack this, my religion, now I'm gonna get offended. It's not about what religion is. It's not about that. It's about the identity, because people will do anything to defend that identity. So all of these rules is what makes up your identity. So once you can understand that, you're like, oh my gosh, that puts a whole new perspective on everything. Because if I can change my rules, or I can be more lenient, then my identity changes. And once your identity changes, now you're not offended when someone says something. I don't like your green hair. Looks horrible. And you're like, okay, that's fine. I don't really care about that. It's not my identity. And this is what the huge part is. And I can give you guys a very easy example. It happened to me 2 days ago, actually, so you guys can see how relevant it is. It happens all the time, but I love relevancy. It's so important. So I'm living in Bali, and I'm living in Uluwatu. So Uluwatu is in it's south of the airport, about 20 minutes south of the airport, on the very tip of the island. Beautiful place for surfing. If you guys ever want to surf or see clear water, this is the place to come to. Now, Canggu, which is the place where I used to live, is about 30 minutes north of the airport. So what I did is I wanted to have a place in both. I wanted a place that I could go to Canggu and stay there, so I wouldn't have to drive back and forth each day. And I found a place. I had a friend who worked there. There's no one really staying there, so she really could use the money. She offered me a good deal, and I've always stayed there before. She gave me a great room, great price, everything's done, and I paid in cash. Done. We're done for the month. And she's like, awesome, Luke. I'm so happy. They call me G'day here. My Balinese name is G'day. That means big. So they call me Mr. Big. That's my name here. And G'day also means number one in the family. So that's what they call me. And I was like, yeah, thank you. I stayed there the night. Everything's fine. And I'm like, this is perfect. I'm happy I have it. I love the room, love the people here. I love one of the people across the street. I know them, was my friend. And Dana showed up with our dog, Luna. And they came the next morning. And as soon as they showed up, the lady, she knows Dana. So she said, oh, hi, Dana. But she didn't really know Luna, our dog. And the second our dog comes in there, she just backed up like, whoa. And I was like, what's going on? She's like, no, she's like, dog, no. And I'm just like, what do you mean, no dog? I'm like, our dog has been here before. I've stayed here 1 or 2 nights at a time and came back. She's like, but that was just one night. And I was like, what's the problem with the dog? And she's just like, no, dog. And one thing I've learned in my life now is when people give you an objection, to find out what that objection is. Whether that's you're selling something, whether someone says they don't want to go somewhere, figure out why they don't. Figure out what it is. Because sometimes it's something that's so easy to change. So most of the time when people actually talk, when people want to buy a product or work with me and they I can't afford that, then I get to the real thing of it. Because you can't afford something, it's a very rare occasion. Because you find out your parents or your child was going to die in 6 days if you couldn't get $10,000, you find a way to get $10,000, no questions asked. So an objection, most of the time, is never true. Think about it when you're doing your shopping. Most of the time when you're shopping and you're like, I don't want that. You actually, whatever you tell them is not the real reason. Usually it's too expensive, but you don't say that. You're just like, we'll try somewhere else. So I always get to the objection. I kept asking, I was like, well, what's going on here? She's like, yeah, just no dog. I'm like, are you worried she's going to bite on something? I can leave a deposit, or she's good. We take her with us everywhere. She doesn't ever stay alone. She's like, no. I was like, well, what's the problem? What's the problem? And she's still like, I was like, what's the problem? And she just is like, and I can see she didn't want to say it, but she said it. She's just like, I'm Muslim. I'm Muslim. And I was like, oh, now we got it. That's what it was. And apparently here, like, I'm not Muslim, so I'm not 100% sure. A lot of friends who are, though, but some of them, they don't like dogs or terrified of dogs. Like, I don't know the root of it or anything, but some of them are terrified of dogs. There's wild dogs in Bali everywhere. But as I saw that, I was just like, that's a perfect example of a rule, a very strong rule, and a very strong identity that she was willing to stand with no matter what. She had my money. She had the money for the month, and now it's not easy to come by money for the local people. It's with what they know, what's common knowledge. But her identity was so strong that she would not take the money. She gave me my money back, and she gave me a great rate on the room just for that one night. But that's how strong the identity was. That's how strong her rules were. And I think religion gosh, it's raining all over my computer and my iPad. I'm here listening. Okay, there we go. Boom. But that shows you how strong someone's rules can be and identity. And then, of course, when it comes to religion, and this is not an attack on a religion, but it's just to let you know that religion is why people have such a strong identity to religion is because you're in a collective group of people believing the same thing. And that's powerful. When you have a collective group of people that have a belief, regardless of whether it's right or wrong or it doesn't matter, because to them it's right, it's powerful because it's harder to break out of it. So people who have the same rules, you'll notice friends, they hang out together. People who believe, yeah, it's hard to really, I don't get that internet stuff. These people usually hang out with people who don't get internet stuff. Someone who's like, I'm trying to figure out this, how to set up my own business. I'm not sure how, but I'm trying to do it. They usually hang around people who are doing the same thing because we tend to hang around people who like the same rules that we do. And this is something that is super powerful to understand because when we're setting up our identity or you're setting up your iPad on your computer because it's raining, it's important to know that if you have these rules wrong, they can just wreak havoc on your life. And it's because it's a rule. And one of the more important things when it comes to these rules is that most of the rules that we have, almost all the rules we have, I'd say, they're built from three things. They're built from fear, trauma, or scarcity. These three things, all the rules that we have that are holding us back, these are the three. Fear, trauma, and scarcity. And you think, well, why is that? It's because it keeps us safe. If you're fearful you're going to lose your money, you do something different from someone who's not scared of that. When trauma happens, when we've had our hearts broken by someone, and we make a rule that, hey, people are evil, be careful. Like, don't trust people. That's a trauma, and that's a fear. If you say, I'm not sharing with anyone, no, I don't do that. I don't share with people. That's scarcity. Like, that's because to say that, you have to always ask yourself, for me to believe that, what else would I have to believe? You have to believe that there's not enough for everyone to have it. Like, if you want something that you truly need and you truly desire and it's in perfect alignment with you and you have the money for it, but it's like in your savings account, but you know you need it right now and you don't do it, like, you must also believe that you're not going to make the money back. Like, there's people who wanted to be in this program who didn't get in it. And the only reason you wouldn't get in it is because you don't think you'll get the value or you don't think you'll get your money back. And this is how people think. People think so much in the ROI, like, what's my return on this investment? And the number one thing that I teach my clients is we instantly shift that. It's not about your return on your investment. Because what does that mean? How are you measuring this return? Like, how is it measured? Because then they're like, well, I don't get it. I'm like, okay, let's do a very simple thing. What's the return? What's the ROI of your mother? Wait, what? What's the return on the investment? You were born. What's the return on the investment? Well, I don't know. It's like difficult to measure because, like, I mean, she took care of you for a long time, and now it's like, yeah, it doesn't make sense. There's a lot of fallacy to that logic. So one thing that I teach, and I'll share with you all, is I teach COI, and it's one of the biggest things it's one of the biggest things that drive me when I am unsure of a decision. And COI is your cost of inaction. Your cost of inaction. So it's not like, what's my return on investment going to be on this program? It's like, no, what is it going to cost you if you don't take it? And I can tell people all the time, I'm like, some people will go back and forth. I used to go back and forth with people maybe 2 or 3 times now. And I'm like, you know what, just don't take it. Keep doing the same thing. Keep making the same mistakes. Keep going to sleep and waking up and then dreading this. Because eventually you'll change it. Because pleasure and pain, everything comes down to that. Once you're in enough pain, you have enough leverage to change. You know, and one of Tony Robbins' seminars, he was talking, and I was listening to him explain the story of he was trying to get people to change and stop smoking and everything. And one of his best friends had never smoked for a long time, and then they started smoking and got addicted, but he never went back to Tony. He's scheduled to meet with Tony to have him help break this habit that he had. And you know, he started smoking more and more and more. And Tony's like, well, we need to meet so we can change this. And I'm paraphrasing the story a little bit. It was a long story. But he said I got a random call for him one day, and he said he stopped smoking. And he's like, I didn't believe it. There's no way he stopped smoking. There's not enough leverage in the world that could make him stop smoking overnight when he's been smoking for like 20 something years. And so we called him back, like, well, what made you stop smoking? This guy smoked all the time because he related pleasure to it. And people need immediate pain. This is how you really should. This is not for this program, but we'll touch on it a little bit. You need immediate pain. So like getting people to stop smoking doesn't work because they don't see immediate danger. If you think danger's in the future, you don't care. You'll still do it because the future's millions of miles away in our mind. Our mind will say anything to justify something. So when we have that pleasure, and he had that pleasure, he said, well, what made you stop smoking? He said, well, I was smoking a cigar actually in my room. I was rocking back and forth on my chair, and the door of my office bust open, and my 3-year-old daughter runs in the room crying. He's like, I'm ready to move heaven and hell to figure out what happened. She's bawling her eyes out. She runs over, grabs me, and just pulling on my pants, like, Papa, 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 Papa. And he's like, what's going on? What's going on? And she's like, stop smoking. And he was like, what are you talking about? What are you want me to stop smoking for? She's like, because I don't want you to die before you see me get married. Boom. Leverage. Immediate pain. Leverage. He finally had the leverage. Seeing his daughter cry, knowing he's going to die, and knowing that he possibly can because he won't make it to see his daughter get married, that brings enough leverage to shift. And that's what it's about. Once you have enough leverage, now that we know this, all the stuff that you're learning right now that you're learning this consciously, and you keep on acting on all this, change the rules. Once you start to change the stuff, this is what moves to your subconscious, and then you don't have to think about it anymore because you will have changed your rules. And one of the things, and the last thing I'll say before we do this exercise, is there's not only rules that we have for ourselves, there's rules that society has taught us growing up as kids. And these rules are naturally in a box. This is what we hear all the time. And I wrote down just a few things here. I wrote, clear your plate. Clean your plate. This is something when I grew up as a kid. Like, we don't leave food on our plate. We eat everything on the plate. Clear your plate. That's a rule that's put up. But if you look at it, what's that rule based on? Fear, trauma, scarcity. Like, it came from scarcity. And when I think about something as simple as that, clear your plate, what else could that mean? That must mean I believe something else. Well, this is something that is a common rule that people set, especially in North America. Another one that I have written down here is money is the root of all evil. Money, evil. So you're like, wow. And most people want to be good people. So you see how we have a conflicting belief right here. I'm a good person. I want to be seen as a good person. I identify with being a good person. But if I also believe money is the root of all evil, well, that must mean if I have money, I'll be evil. And subconsciously, your brain just doesn't let it happen. So when people say that they're stuck, it's because they got two conflicting beliefs that don't go together. This is it. When you have two conflicting beliefs that don't work well together, it doesn't work. And this is when you'll feel like, I don't know what to do. I don't know why I have this block. Most of the time when people have a block, it means that they have, and I'm trying to think of a very one that I've heard a lot lately. I think they said, like, I can't remember, I can't think of one off the top of my head, but if we use this one, money's the root of all evil. It's a very simple one. But I want to be a good person, then of course you're going to be stuck. Of course you're not going to really make money because subconsciously you don't want to do it. Your subconscious does not want to portray your identity. So what we're going to do right now, what I would love for you guys to do, and Ferd, I know you just got here, but we're talking about rules if you want to jump in this exercise. I wrote down here what I want you guys to write down right now. Write in the comment section, what is a popular rule or saying that you've heard before or that you use? Just one of them. Like a popular saying. It could be one that you don't use, but one that you've heard, or one that people have talked about. What would be a popular rule? I'll give you guys a minute to think of that. And just write it in the comment section. popular rule, a popular rule or saying that you've heard. And you realize they're everywhere. They're sayings, they're on t-shirts, popular rules that we hear, they're everywhere. Clear your plate, money's the root of all evil. No days off. What's some other ones? What's some other ones you guys can think of right in the chat section real quick? Just one of them. Just one that you can think of. I'll write down one to start off. I'll write no days off. That's a pretty classic rule that we hear everywhere. I love it, YOLO. That is perfect. Oh, man. YOLO. Man, how did I not think of that? YOLO's a perfect one. You only live once. That's a rule people live by. And I know this is a replay and a recording and people will watch it, but Ferd, I just wanted to say that we're saying that all these rules that we have for ourselves, this is what makes our identity. The rules put us in a box by our rules, whatever that is. Like my rule, I'm not good at math. I don't like mornings. I don't know. I can't be around people who aren't positive. Like all of these things you're shifting, but people have hundreds of rules. That's created your identity. And that identity is what people will defend until they die. So yeah, and this other one, yeah, you can only get ahead in life if you work hard. So these are rules. And I'm sure people can think of even more rules. If we wanted to, I'm sure you guys can write down 10 to 15 different rules that you think of that other people have told you. And if we were to do this exercise and I were to give you guys a break for like 10 to 15 minutes and have you write out your own personal rules, you realize you have certain rules. And the problem is these rules are all great. There's great things about these rules. So the first thing we're gonna do, because we can change these rules, this is what you guys are gonna do. This is what we're leading up to that you're gonna do. You're gonna change these rules. Because these rules that you have, they run your life. So one of the example that I had here was I work great under pressure. That was the rule that I had. Like I work great under pressure. So whenever you're looking at a rule, next week we're going to talk about our values and we're going to apply our rules to our values so we make it very easy to feel happy and very hard to feel sad. This is what we did in Date with Destiny. I implemented in all my coaching, all my programs, to be a day of this because it really helped me so much. But one of the sayings was, I work great under pressure. I work great under pressure is what I said to myself. So whenever you're looking at these rules and you're going to break it down, you always do the good first, all the time. You always say the good things first, because then your mind is more open to hear the bad. This is a lesson for everything in life. If you want someone to do something, like, hey, I love so much how you've just been really taking care of yourself and making sure all this is good. And it would really help me if you just took this and not left these on the floor. Rather than, why do you always leave this on the floor? Anytime you start with the bad, you're closing the door before you even get to it. And this is something that's super, super important. So basically we look at something like this. So I have a quote here that I live by: work great under pressure. The great thing about that is like, oh, I know if there's a pressure situation, he'll be the one to handle that situation. He's the perfect one to need. He's the perfect person who we need. But here's the challenge: someone who lives by this rule, work great under pressure, is that they want to work great. So you know what they're always going to find? Yeah, they're always going to find pressure. They're always going to find someone who works better with their back against the wall. Guess what they're always going to be trying to find? Exactly. They're going to find a wall to back up against. That's what they believe. That's a rule. And the thing about rules is your rules, all of the rules that we have, like I said, they're a lot of the bad rules we have are based off of fear, trauma, or scarcity. But all of these rules that you have right now are just based off of what you know right now, what you've experienced. That's why you've made these rules. That's it. A child doesn't have any rules. You have to give a child rules. You ever see a baby, like when the mom lets the baby run free? Baby doesn't care. A baby will walk right off of the table. No rules. Doesn't care. Like if you come here in Bali, these dogs in Bali, they don't have any rules. They do whatever they want. But I've seen dogs get hit by scooters, and I bet you that our dog's been hit by a scooter. She doesn't run in the street anymore. She thinks twice because she's running into the street with getting hit by a car or getting hit by a scooter or being just taken out. She sprinted out in front and she got hit right by a scooter. Happens all the time with the dogs here. They just scream for a while and they're fine. But she made a rule for that now in her mind. She's a dog. She literally looks before she goes to the street. And this is what we do. We make a rule like this. So YOLO, you only live once. If we look at that rule, like, okay, that's cool. Like, they're going to do everything. They're going to really just like, they're going to live their life to the fullest all the time. There's so many awesome things for someone who has that rule. Now, what are the challenges for someone who has this rule of, I only live once? There's a lot of challenges with that if we think about it, if we break that rule down. A person's probably going to do a lot of things and not think about the consequences. They're not going to think long term. They probably aren't going to take that many crazy risks either because they think they might die really quick. So there's all these rules, no days off. Like, what rule is that? That's great because I know this person's a hard worker, but I also know they'll probably burn themselves out if that's something they kept on. And being a pro athlete 12 years, trust me, if you don't take a day off, you're going to be pretty screwed up. And your body it'll demand a day off. And it'll give yourself a reason to take a day off. So you look at that and you're like, wow, no days off. Wow. That rule should change. If we change that rule, that changes the identity. No days off. Because what happens if I take a day off? If that's my rule and I break my rule, how am I going to feel? Someone who believes you can only get ahead in life if you work hard. Well, how do you know if you're working hard? You can never work hard enough. If we look at the definition of work hard, like when do you work? Can you ever work the hardest you can? You can always work harder. So someone like this would always just be working all the time. Even if they weren't working for anything, they just have to be working. They have to be staying busy. They have to be doing something. I even had on here one of the things I starred and circled in the notes that I had. I try to be more organized and write notes sometimes. And it says always need to be busy. Always need to be doing something. And if you believe that, then if you need rest, like one thing I tell people like this, I'm like, what if you looked at rest as doing something? Like, what if you always need to be doing something? Well, what if you're resting? That's doing something. But people don't. The one thing I ask all my clients, I met one of my friends here just randomly in a restaurant tonight, and we were talking, and I was like, when was the last time you had like a day off? He doesn't take days off. And it's so funny because everyone thinks that once they quit their job, live in Bali and do all that, they're going to take all the days off they want. But it's like, well, once you get here, if you have your own business, you can work anytime. And you guys, any of you all here who are entrepreneurs and you watching the replays entrepreneur, the hard part of being an entrepreneur is that, well, I can work anytime, which usually means we work all the time. Like I'm running this program right now. It's going to be 10 o'clock. After this, I'm going to go through this, look at what I did great in this session, what I could improve on this session, and what didn't go so great with me in this session. I'm going to look at it. I'm going to think about it. I'm going to just maybe write a couple things down that we need to talk about early on next session. By the time that's over, it'll be maybe 10:30. Then I'm finally going to lay down and be like, okay, maybe I want to watch a TV show just for me. And I'll be a little bit tired. Tomorrow, I'm going to be up around 5:30, 6 o'clock and go to the gym. Think about I'm running other programs, I have clients. So if I always need to be doing something and I identify as that, then it's hard to take a break. So what I need to do, I need to change that rule. I need to do something. I can just take a break when I need to. Force myself to take a break. Understand that taking a break is great. One of the things that someone told me, it was a very simple quote, but it saved me so much time and stress in my life. It said, if you want to keep it said, sharpen the saw if you want to keep using it. Or you can rephrase that. If you want to keep using the saw, sharpen it. Nothing, you can't do anything all the time and not take a break from it. That sets yourself up for some serious, serious problems and stress. And all these rules that I say, you guys can look at all these, not even just your own. It's always easier to look at your own, of course. But look at someone who says no days off. Imagine what their life would be like. You don't need to be a genius. I don't even need to know the person. We're going to do an exercise next week that's really going to change your values. And you guys are going to see Like, I just need to see what you need to feel happy as you make this rule to feel happy, and I can tell you exactly how this person's feeling and what they go through. Someone who takes no days off. You only get ahead in life if you work hard. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna change these rules. And I want you guys to do this and as an exercise. Of course, there's nothing forced or mandatory. But the difference right now is you guys know more than you did when we started this. You guys know more since we started this. And that makes all the difference. All the difference is made because you know more. Only, like, I think we talked about this on the first week. I think we did. I don't know. I tell this to kind of everyone now, even if I'm not working with them. The only difference between you and the $1 million version of yourself is the $1 million version of yourself. That's it. The more successful version of yourself, they know more. The person who's more fit than you are, and I mean yourself, the version of yourself, they know more than you do. Like, maybe you eat some McDonald's or some chips or some Burger King or a pizza, and then you just beat yourself up for the rest of the week. And then you feel sad and you feel depressed, and then you eat more, then you don't work out, then you're more frustrated. And we call that compound emotion. This isn't the program for it, but what a compound emotion is when you lock emotion, you lock a feeling in place by compounding it. So it's when you have a bad meal, and then you feel guilty that you had that meal, and then you feel frustrated that you knew better and you didn't do better, and you compound it by locking it there. And then you feel really sad because now you just broken something that you knew you couldn't, so now you've locked it again. And the more feelings you feel, because it's never just one, everyone compounds their emotions. But the thing is, you can do it with great emotions. But we also do it with bad emotions. We compound them. And when you do that, you lock it. So you guys know more than you do now. So you'll do better naturally. You're aware of it. Now when you're having these rules and something's in your head, you're like, I should take a day off. No, I can't because I can't have it. Like, oh, actually, I can. I can have a day off. And you can change these rules. Because when you change these rules, it changes everything. And it's not going to be me who changes it. I can change YOLO. Like, I mean, you can change this to either you can do the same thing or you can be like, yeah, I mean, I'm sure all of us, if we look at YOLO, how could we change that rule? You only live once. Like, you could change that rule to make it serve you, not make it keep you trapped. So just think about it. YOLO, okay. YOLO, you only live once. You only live once, okay? You only live once. Okay. Well, what do I want? How can I make this serve me? Well, I want to help people. Like, I could use that to motivate myself if I'm ever on the couch. But, I mean, that's not really serving. Maybe I don't need that rule. Maybe I don't need it. No days off. Do I need that rule as part of my life? No days off? Like, I never take a day off? Is that what I really want? Do I never want to take a day off? What if I took a day off? What if you lived more than once? Like, when you start asking different questions, you start opening up a whole new realm of possibilities. So what I want you guys to do for the next session and do this on your own time is to think of some rules that you live by. Look at certain things and put yourself in certain situations. What's the rule going through your head? We all have rules. And you're going to have to change them consciously. Like, one of the rules that I've been really working on, and something that I don't say I struggle with this, but it's not in my subconscious yet, because you know what's in your subconscious because you don't think about it anymore. It just happens. You get in your car and you go. That's how you know it's in your subconscious. And I still have rules that aren't. For me, I'm in Bali, so I know I can get a coconut for like 80 cents. Like, I would get coconuts to ship to my house, like outside of our villa, just set them all outside. That was what I would do. And I'm like, I'd get 50 coconuts delivered, and they'd all be about 50 cents each. So I know a coconut's 50 cents. So a rule that I had was like, I know I can get it for 50 cents, so I'm not going to pay $3 for it in the store when I'm at a restaurant. That's a rule that I had because it doesn't make sense. I'm wasting money doing that. But then I have to ask myself, well, how's that helping you? You want something and you're denying yourself. Why would you put that rule up there? Is there fear, trauma, or scarcity? Scarcity. That's the rule. Because you act like, well, if I spend that on that, that means I can't spend that on the 3 coconuts. You can do both. A secret, when someone asks me, like, Luke, I don't know if I should, like, kind of create content, or if I should just kind of like watch other people a little bit more. Which one do you think I should do? The answer is always both and. Always. That's it. The answer is always both and. All the time. I don't know if I should go out or I should stay in. Both. What do you mean? Both. You can go out and then you can come back and stay inside for a little bit. Both. Because for me, when I had that rule, like I'm not going to pay 10 times what I can get when I know I can get it somewhere else. But you desire it now. You want it now. Because that's a pattern if you're not careful. Because what happens is that pattern just starts to be like, oh, anytime that I see something that's more expensive than I think it could be, but I desire it, I won't get it. I'll wait. I had to break that pattern today. We went to a restaurant. And I was in the restaurant today, and I'm like, do I buy this one coconut in here for, I don't know what it was, like $4 when I know I can get it just outside there for 50 cents? And I almost didn't get it. But one of the biggest questions people ask me is, how do you break the pattern? How do I break that pattern? This pattern I have of you know, I want to change what I'm doing because I know I can. I know more. How do I break that pattern? By constantly going against it. That's how you break a pattern. That's how you break it. So you don't think about it anymore. You know, I probably shouldn't tell you guys this, but in my programs, I'm always open. You guys are like family. Anyone who takes the program with me, that's how I feel. So about 10 years ago, I used to help people pick up girls. So if you guys, females watching this, yeah, you're gonna get some inside information. And one of the biggest things that guys struggled with was approaching girls, approaching an attractive girl. That was it. The great conversation, gentlemen, but they were scared to death of the approach. And what is the one thing people do when they're scared to do something? Everyone tries to research ways to do it. They'll watch videos on it. They'll buy programs for it. They'll read books about it. They'll talk to people about it. Well, when I look at that, the question I ask is, well, what aren't you doing? What do I not see? I don't see you actually going and approaching anyone. So how do we break that pattern? I make them approach everyone. That's what I would do. When we go, I'm like, go talk to her. Go. And everyone, bro, like, no, because like, go. That's how you break that pattern. Do that 50 times a day, you'll learn more than that from you will in $50,000 worth of content. It's breaking a pattern. And it's the easiest way, I guess, the best example I can give for the simple factor that it's a deep fear that people have. And when I was with my friends and trying to get people, and I do this all the time. I talk to everyone all the time. I don't feel it anymore. It's so just part of who I am now. Like I was at a restaurant and I was saying bye to all the cooks and the people working there. But there was a table of like these, I think it was like they were having a birthday party. 6 girls all dressed up, all with cocktails and drinking. And I was leaving there because I had to come back I wanted to just look over my notes real quick before I started. And I was about to walk out and I was like, Luke, you didn't even wish them a good night. I was like, oh yeah. I walked over to them like, hey, excuse me, you guys are having a great time. I'm off to work. I'm excited though to go. And I want to wish you guys all a great night. You guys are going to have fun. Have fun for me. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, awesome. They cheered me, and then I walked away. Like, because that pattern's broken. I don't have that. What am I going to be fearful of to approach someone or something or anything? For what? But there was a rule, though, you had. There's a rule. What was the rule? Like, if I go and do that, I don't know anything about it. I need to know more. If I just do it, like there's a chance that I get, that rule is set in place for what? Fear. And trauma. Because you've probably been rejected before. If you haven't been rejected, then you aren't doing anything worthwhile. That's it. Very simple. Like if you're not being rejected, if you're not failing, then you're not doing something worthwhile. You're not taking any risk or being brave. People always ask me like, you know, like, I don't know, I kind of want to go, but I don't know. I'm like, this is the moment you decide. This is your moment to be brave. Because when you have $100,000 in the bank and you just want to know if you live in Bali for 6 months and the locals here live on $300 a month, there's no bravery of that. There's no risk involved with that. Risk and bravery, which are the things that make you stronger, there needs to be a risk. You have to be able to lose something. Changing these rules that we have, you have something to lose because you made the rule out of fear, or you made the rule out of some trauma response that you have, or you made the rule out of some kind of scarcity. That's why you made this rule. And now it's just running your life. It's running it. Your entire life is being run by this. Like, if I have to give some of the rules that I hear that like my clients say, is like, I need more information. This is it. One of my recent clients who I just signed with, when I was talking to her, we had like a call. I have like an audition call because I don't just work with anyone. And we had a call. And, she told me about all the stuff she was doing. And she told me about all the stuff she brought. She's like, I had been getting all this stuff and investing in all this. And I was like, what do you need all this information for? Like, all this information, what is it doing for you? Information is not transformation. You need someone to help you guide you to this. It's not about the information. Information is on the internet how to turn $1 into $1,000. That doesn't mean people are going to do it. And she's like, oh my gosh, that's so true. And I was like, well, we should start soon. And she's like, I don't know. It's a lot of money and during a time here. I'm like, I know. But how much is this costing you, all the stuff you're doing, the stuff you're trying? How much is it costing you so far? And they're like, yeah, okay, I have to think about it. And I stopped it. I was like, don't you see this is the pattern? This is the pattern that you have right here of knowing you should do something, knowing you're able to do it, but there's a fear, there's scarcity, there's trauma, and you're not breaking the pattern. You have a moment right now to break the pattern. And I don't pressure people, but I always love to hear why people don't. And whenever I have a call, I'm trying to keep being in something, a program, I always want to know why. What's the truth of it? And they were just worried that they weren't going to get their money's worth. And it's like, well, you got your money's worth in this call, seeing these patterns that you don't see. And long story short, she ended up being like, well, I'm going to think about it. I'm like, no problem. That's it. I let it go. About 2 days later, I get an email. 2 words. I'm ready. That's it. Send me an email. I'm ready. She ended up paying right then and there. And one thing I do is I get on the call always after I sign, if someone signs me to talk to them. And I could hear them on the phone just like, they're like, I'm so nervous. Like, I haven't put that much money into something. And I was like, yeah, you haven't put that much money into yourself. Like, congratulations. That means you're growing. You're growing. That's what growth feels like. It feels scary. It hurts. Me, I'm 6'8". That's 2 meters 2. 5 meters 5. This is how tall I am. And I'm telling you, when I was like 6 foot, 6'1", my knees hurt so bad all the time. Because there's this when you're growing so fast, there's this I don't know what it's called. It's not a disease. It's something that develops in people who grow really fast. It's called Osgood-Schlatter's. It might be a German name, actually. It sounds German. It's called Osgood-Schlatter's. And it's the pain you get right under your kneecap. This is what I had all the time. I'd ice my knees after playing, and I was playing all the time. Still growing too fast. Because growth is uncomfortable. Most of the people that I work with, the people that I'm around, I was like, everyone's just so comfortable in their life. And I realized I just want to make everyone uncomfortable that I meet. That's what I do. I've been doing it maybe like 2 or 3 months. When I meet someone, it's just like, what do you, like, I call them out. Whatever their paradigm is in their mind, this identity, because I know, because you guys know this, you're seeing in other people. That's the craziest thing. You see it in other people, and then you'll see it in yourself. You're like, oh my gosh. Because you'll see these by what people say. People tell you their rules. If you listen closely, people will tell you their rules. And if you take a bunch of their rules, you can put together what kind of life they live. Like, I don't know, I don't want to spend that much money on that. I don't know. I really wanted it would help me, but I don't really feel like doing that. I don't know, that's a waste of money. All right, cool. So something that would help you make more money is a waste of money. And then you wonder why you're stuck. Interesting. Like, there's so many stories like this, people's rules that they have. And then you realize at the end of the day, people just don't have the desire. That's been the saddest part of me since I've become a fulfillment coach. It's really like people don't have the desire. That's it. People want to change their life, but they're not willing to do the simplest thing to do it. Like now, you guys have the tools, but I'm telling you, it's going to be hard. You're going to have to consciously think of all this stuff. So what I want you to do is go through these rules that you guys, I said I would keep today short, but I'm looking at the top here. Oh my gosh, almost an hour. But I want you guys to go through the rules that you tell yourself. Tomorrow when you'll see the rules all the time. They'll pop up in your head. Now you're aware of them. So now you're not going to be able to get out away from it. Now you're going to want to get something and you're like, I don't know, I don't want to get that. I really want it, but it's a little bit more than I spend on it. Boom, you just put out a rule. That's one rule, write it down. Don't want to get it if it's more than I think. That was my huge one. That was my biggest rule that I had to change. Like I had a coach and, I was talking to her, this will be the last story, but this is a good one. And this is what changed everything for me. I had a coach and I told her, I was like, I don't know, I have these like problems that come up when I have to pay for something. Like, and it's more than I think it is. She's like, what do you mean? I was like, I went out, took the wife out for some, like, I wanted to get her coffee and food, like something small. Like, I wanted to go for a coffee. And I thought the coffee was going to be this much money. Like, in reality, it was like, I thought it was going to be like $3. But it turned out to be like $6 because we got other stuff as well. And then I felt this like, oh my gosh, like this like panic almost in my mind, in my heart. Like I felt like a panic. Like I'm gonna pay for it. I'm gonna take care of it. Like if I'm taking my friends out, taking people out, I got it. No worries. But I wanted to feel smooth, and that didn't feel smooth. And when it doesn't feel smooth, something's wrong. And I was like, I don't know why I have this. It's whenever something's more than I expect it to be. And I told her, like, I just went out and bought a pair of AirPods earlier that day for, I don't know, $180. No problem. Don't care. Go in there. I'll take the AirPods. Like, oh, you need it? No. I just need the AirPods. Take them. I don't need the box. I'm good. That's no problem. But for coffee that I think is $3, it's $6, and I'm like, whoa. And then she didn't even give me a solution. She just said, like, she's like, dude, like, imagine what that's costing you. I was like, yeah, no. Like, imagine the joy you lose in that moment. The joy you lost of just feeling like I took care of someone. I treated someone. You lost it all. For what? But that was a pattern that I had. That was a rule that I had. That it was broken and it attacked my identity. That I must not know what I'm doing. I'm not spending my money right. And that's a rule. It had nothing to do about the money. Because if I know we're going out to dinner, it's going to be $20 or $80, it doesn't matter. I'm okay. But if it's more than what I think, it's a problem. So that's a rule. And I have to be careful with that. And that's what changed for me. And I had to consciously do it. Like consciously. Like, what do you want? Back to that question we asked in the beginning. Because that is what you need to make sure. Does this rule help me get what I want, or does it hurt? Like, I want to have a fit body. If I don't take a day off, it's just going to help me get a fit body. At the end, you'll hurt yourself. Your muscles won't repair. They'll do more damage than it will do good. If I think to myself, I only live once, like, does that help me do what I want? I don't know. I think I live once, so what does that mean? Does that mean I'm going to take more risk or I'm going to take less risk? I think people don't understand YOLO. Because everyone who does YOLO just does a bunch of crazy stuff. Like, if you only live once, why would you stay in a job that you hate? Follow your own advice. You don't even like your job. And you only live once, and that's what you're going to keep doing it. If you truly believe you only live once, and you really live by that, every day you most likely would act like you were going to die tomorrow. You would leave traveling, you would take huge risks, you wouldn't care. But people don't follow that. You can only get ahead in life if you work hard. Like, you're going to work so hard all the time. When are you going to take a break? How will you know when you're ahead? More important, if you have this rule, who are you trying to get ahead of? You only get ahead in life if you work hard. And our mind just keeps it like that. That's a post on the wall and you live by it. But then we've got to look at the post and be like, well, Get ahead of who? What am I trying to get ahead of? Get ahead of the person next to me? If we want to play the comparison rule, if I'm just American, I think you have to have more than $3 in your bank account and you're richer than like 80% of the world. So you're ahead. So what is it? What is it? So I have to work hard to get ahead of who I don't know I'm getting ahead of. I got to work hard. What does working hard mean? What does work hard mean? If you guys remember from the first session, I said that sometimes I go to a cafe. Can you guys hear me? It's raining pretty hard here. Can you guys hear me okay? Good? Okay, awesome. Yeah, I told you I sit outside of this rice field and a lot of those places here. And there's people working in that field all the time. And they're probably making $3, $4, $5, $6 a day. So it doesn't work. There's fallacy in that logic. And in every single rule we have, we can find a way because all of us have evidence. We choose not to see it. We all have evidence that some of these rules we have, they don't work. We all have rules that we have right now, and we have evidence of that. When we do it, we actually miss out on a lot in life. If I don't take a day off, my phrase was no days off, you've missed out on a lot of life. Because on the off days are sometimes some of the best days. All of them. Every single rule. And these are what shape your identity. This is what you defend. Anytime someone attacks it. Luke, you took yesterday off. No, I didn't. Now someone says that to me is like, yeah. Cool. Thanks for pointing that out. I didn't realize it. Like, that's how you should feel. So the exercise I want you guys to do is to rewrite some of these rules. Write out 10 rules that you have. It might take you a few days because you'll notice them as you go around your day. It'll be very interesting when you start listening for it. Your brain's just going to come up with all this stuff that you had no idea you thought. You had no idea. And you're like, I don't really want that. You know? You sure? Rule you have? Oh, it's just a cheat day. It's just a cheeseburger. Or what rule do you have that? And make sure to ask them, does this rule help me get what I want? What I truly want with my life, not what I want in the moment. What you want in the moment changes all the time. But what you want in your life, that's important. For me, my North Star is empowering and impacting people. So the rules that I have need to allow me to do that. If I have no days off, I'm doing a disservice to my audience by showing up tired without energy. And eventually that leads to me resenting them. Like, oh man, I have to show up again for Project Alpha. Oh my goodness, like I'm just exhausted. I've been doing stuff all day. I haven't had a day off in like a month. And listen to other people's rules, guys. That's the last thing I'll say. This week, listen to other people's rules. They'll tell you their rules. They'll tell you the rules. Like, man, I've been up since 4 o'clock. Man, I'm just exhausted. Like, oh my gosh. People will tell you their rules exactly, showing you what's important to them, shaping their identity. So write down about 10 rules that you have, and then rewrite them. Rewrite them. No days off except when I need it. If I work hard, I can get ahead in life. If I don't work hard, I can get ahead in life. So work hard when needed. It's a good rule. Simple. Well, I don't want to suggest that you guys come up with your own, figure out your own rules, write them down, and then change them. And look at what you want and see if the rules, first of all, before you rewrite them, look how they contradict each other, a lot of the rules. You'll see. Like your rules will just contradict each other. So you can't even do it. It's like pick a number greater than 10, but less than 5. And that's what we give our subconscious mind. And our mind is just like, I don't know. And you just stuff. Write your rules, look at them, look at how they contradict each other, look at how they contradict what you want, and then rewrite them. apiece? We're good? Give me one boom. Boom! That's amazing. Thank you all so much for being here. Hope you got something out of today. It's so important. Your identity, the rules, people forget about it and it runs them subconsciously and they're not aware of it. You guys are aware of it. Just the simple fact you're aware of it now, you'll do better. And this weekend, listen for people's rules, listen to your own rules, and you'll be surprised. They're everywhere. The rules are everywhere. Every rule contradicts every other rule. My rules contradict your rules. And this is the only thing that really separates us as humans, is our different rules that we have for each other. What I think you should do on the internet, what you think you should do. What I think I should say, what you think you should say. So rules, that's it that separates us, our beliefs. Without those, we see each other the same. It's only the rules that separate us. So write them down, listen to other people's rules, and then rewrite your rules so that they serve you. And then I'll speak to you guys on Tuesday. And yeah, I'm excited. Some surprises for you guys on Tuesday, what we're talking about. We're going to go into rules again, but we're going to take the rules on a completely different thing. So make sure you do this right now, because next week on Tuesday, these rules, you're going to want to have these done before we get to Tuesday, because Tuesday we're going to do something else and with different rules. So we have a bunch of different rules that we have in different areas. All right? I want you guys take care. Have a great weekend. Watch these replays. Yesterday's replay or 2 days ago, and today's should be up by tomorrow. In about 14, 18 hours, it should be up. I got to upload them. The internet's not working so great here to upload. And then rewatch them if you need to. Send me an email. I'll be in an email for you guys available, or Instagram, whatever way I communicated with you all. And I'll see you guys on Tuesday, or I'll see you next week if you're watching the replay. And thank you guys for being here. See you guys.